are Lagos Talks 91.3.
You're welcome. It's Lagos Talks 91.3. This is definitely not a repeat broadcast. We apologize for that. Welcome to the live drive. My name is Michelle. It's 4:30 p.m. on the clock. It's time for The Office, where we'll talk about things affecting you or issues concerning the office, getting advice from the best experts in the field. Today we have a special guest, but first of all, we'll be talking about managing mental health and wellness while at work. And you listening can join the conversation with your questions, contributions, inputs in general. We have an expert in the house and she will be taking care of all your questions today. Now let's talk about our guest today. We have Dr. Uganze Eke. She's the CEO of Chooselife Ltd. Dr. Uganze Eke is an internationally certified clinical consultant pharmacist with over 25 years work experience in both corporate and private businesses. She studied pharmacy at the University of Lagos and completed her doctorate of pharmacy degree at the University of Benin, Edo State, back in 2005. She's also a fellow of the West African Postgraduate College of Pharmacists and holder of an American Foreign Pharmacist Equivalency degree, amongst other business certifications. Dr. Eke's passion for preventive health led to the birthing of her umbrella company called Fitness Fair and subsequently Chooselife Ltd. Her major strength is connecting with individuals across corporate and individual strata, from executives to field staff, giving practical interventions and information needed to take action. What an interesting profile. She's right here. Dr. Uganze Eke, welcome to Lagos Talks.
Thank you, Michelle.
It's a pleasure to have you. You have such a beautiful smile.
Thank you.
Yes. Today we'll be talking about mental health at work. And remember that The Office is a special show proudly brought to you by the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria and Lagos Talks 91.3. We solve problems on this show. We bring knowledge, wisdom, information to make sure you're looking out at the right jobs, you're looking for the right opportunities to leverage on. And even when you get those jobs, what are the things you ought to do to keep it and also to stay sane while at it? Today we'll be discussing mental health, and that's something that is rarely discussed in the office space. And that's why we have our guest today. She'll be talking a whole lot, and you listening would get to, you get a chance to join the conversation as we proceed. So, Dr. Eke, let me come to you. Please kindly educate us on mental health. What are the triggers and signs of mental ill health?
Okay, so thank you so much. I'm so glad that CIPM is discussing this because it shows that they are who they are. I mean, they are the ones who drive the corporate wellness and corporate the habits and the principles and everything else that should give you a good work experience, and at the same time allow you live properly even after work,
which is important.
So mental health is huge. It's a very broad topic, but we're just going to try and focus on it from the wellness point of view. But to give a bit of a background, so what is mental health? There's really no it's so wide that you don't want to give a simple definition to it. So we're going to just look at it from the WHO definition, which basically says that it's a state of well-being in which an individual realizes his or her own abilities and can cope with the normal stresses of life and be able to work productively and as well as also fruitfully, and at the same time make contribution intelligently to his or her own community or workspace. And that's like in a nutshell what the WHO tells us. But some people would want you to align that to an impact on the brain. So some would say, there has to be a damage to the brain, either structurally or biochemically. But it's much more larger than that, because now we know that it's not just about a damage to the brain. It could be, things that have to do with what you can tangibly hold on to. And that's what makes it so important that we talk about it, because people have been hiding for so long. So you said, what are the symptoms? What are the things
What are the triggers and signs of mental ill health specifically?
Again, because it's such a diverse topic, I can only give you a few.
Okay.
You know, for some people, they just realize that there's a distinct change in their attitude to things. What you normally have taken for granted, like the way you eat, the way you sleep, the way you interact socially with people, because one of the definitions of mental health is the well-being that you have emotionally, the well-being of your mental and psychological state, and also the well-being of your social ties. So it's not just the one thing. It could be the change that you see, therefore, in the way you react. Sometimes it's too much to something that really shouldn't upset you that much.
Right.
And suddenly you see yourself fly off the handle. And, you know, in these our parts, we could say, oh, me and this, my, hot temper or something. But it speaks to why, you know, you should take a look and say, but this really shouldn't have taken me to this place, you know, to this bad place, especially when you can't control yourself, you know, when you're in that state. Then again, the psychological part of it, you just find yourself maybe overly worrying, overly anxious about things that you shouldn't be anxious about, or having like repetitive thoughts that suddenly control everything you do. And I must say that this season of the pandemic has really brought this out in a lot of people who didn't even think that they could be considered mentally ill. Because people became so scared of even going out because of the COVID experience and the fear of catching the disease. And we heard about so many people that passed and things happening. So people just became paranoid. So that psychological thing kicked in for a lot of people during this season. And so these are things that you normally would not think about.
Right.
Or here you are, suddenly realizing that, is there something wrong with me and the way I'm going on, maybe using the hand sanitizer too much. Again, that speaks to like obsessive behaviors. Yes, obsessive behaviors. You're forever washing your hand. You're forever washing everything. You know, it just has subtle changes that suddenly you realize that you are not the way you used to be. And then finally, the social part of it, you could talk to a lot of people. You could go out before without thinking, but now you're forced to stay in a lockdown. That freaked people out, I can tell you.
Indeed.
When you couldn't go out, you couldn't relate. And then, of course, when you do go out, you can't touch, you can't hug. You know, we're saying social distancing. It did a lot to a lot of people's psyche, believe me. And so this season really pulled out the mental health issues that were salient for a lot of us, and we never thought that we were mentally ill.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's bring it back to the office. Let's still talk about the triggers in the office space. As an expert who's worked with corporate bodies and individuals in different stratas, what are some of the triggers that you find that could trigger someone's ill mental health in the office?
Oh, definitely the pressure. In the office, over 60% of adults will tell you that mental health, they personally experience mental health issues with the stress of work. And in these parts where there are no definitions and boundaries to maybe how much, you know, you can give of yourself at a particular time, a lot of people tend to begin to, you know, get into that place, into that zone of mental imbalance at work. So what do you see? Sometimes you see people who unnecessarily take out their frustrations on other people because they can't handle it internally. Right. So they look for a victim. So you see a lot of victimization of bosses on younger ones and people down your line of authority. And then you also see withdrawals. There are people who would just withdraw from the workspace mentally. That's what you call presenteeism. They are at work, but they are not at work. Oh, yes. They are present there physically, but they are not there mentally. And so these things, you know, you see a whole lot of them, people losing, again, their temper, unnecessarily flying off the handle, you know, things like that. You begin to notice a distinct change even in the behavior. There's also something about when people look depressed. I'm talking about, looking at now,
appearance.
The appearance of it, because the whole body is suddenly dull. And then some people start eating, unnecessarily eating, and then they add weight because they try to compensate for whatever sadness is going on inside. And because they can't let it out properly, they just, you know, get into this obsessive state. Yeah.
I've also noticed that some people who are usually very productive start being underproductive. They
Yes.
start losing concentration or start making mistakes. You can just tell that they need to go home and get a rest for the day. They can't get things done anymore. For like 3 days, they're just making mistakes and making decline. And they used to be high flyers and excellent with what they do, and it just starts going downhill. Sometimes when people notice or the superiors notice, they just tell the person to take some time off. But, not everybody can notice that or see that. Have you also experienced that
yes,
as well?
you're absolutely right. Because when that happens and you tell the person take time off, I think this is the time to begin to talk about it. It's not just enough to say take time off without actually sometimes engaging that person to find out why.
What the problem
Yes, because people assume that, at least in these are parts, that you should be able to pull yourself together. And that's such a wrong approach to mental health issues. There are diverse treatment plans that can happen, especially in the workplace. What we do is from the wellness point of view, so it's what can happen to help someone. And these days, companies have employee assistance programs that can easily connect someone who doesn't want to talk about it, but has the help they need. And these are usually like free helplines or platforms like what we do in Chooselife, where we have platforms where people can go on the platform and talk to someone and reach out for help.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, yes, because it's still a stigma in this part.
Right.
Saying, I have issues mentally, I can't do this, I can't do that, is still what a lot of us don't want to talk about. Heck, this is the society where before you get married, they'll go and check if there's madness in your family and the background. And people can actually cancel weddings and stuff because of that. So we need to be careful. It's not just in Nigeria, though.
Yeah.
It's worldwide.
All right. So in what ways can you look after your well-being at work? What do we need to do from, employers to employees? What are some things that we can do to look after our well-being while at work?
Okay. Well, I have mentioned that if your office or your workplace does not have an EAP program in place, I think
What is an EAP?
That's an employee assistance program in place. And that usually is a major avenue where people can reach out for the help they need without necessarily going through a boss or someone who needs to know. Because people are really scared about the security of their jobs. You don't want to go and tell your HR, lead that, I think I have mental health issues. That's even, so for that reason, you want to encourage that your workspace or your corporate environment has something. Even if it is not a structured one, at least create a path, that someone can get the help they need. And secondly, open up the workplace, talk about it. And this is something I encourage management to do, especially because one thing I've found out is that when someone takes ownership of their struggles, you empower others to come out. And you would find out that you are usually not the only one.
Right.
And people are just looking for that person that will take the bold step to say, I've been struggling with depression, with feelings of sadness. I've been struggling. And you are not, hiding it behind religion, which is something else we are so used to doing. You want to be able to say, look, I'm sad, and own it. Right. And allow your neighbor to also know that these things happen and that they can pass in some cases. Yes.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's good. Let's still talk about the environment. We're in an environment where people don't talk about mental health problems at all. Clearly, it's not good. But what are some changes you would like us to have? I mean, fine, we don't talk about it as often as we should, but people are not great listeners either. So what would you encourage people to do? To be more open-minded, less judgmental maybe? Are there some techniques that we can just, grow within us? We don't have the skills. I mean, you're the experts, but surely there's some things that you would expect people to do. Maybe listen more. Or please, I want you to put out words of encouragement. So if someone out there who might be listening to someone who has mental health issues and really do not know what to say, they don't know how to react, they don't know what to feel, they're just numb and just, giving zero help.
Yes. I would encourage everyone to pay attention to their neighbor. We are social animals, so you want to be able to look out for someone and try to encourage the discussion to happen. When you notice that someone that you that says good morning to you every day is suddenly not reacting, try to come out of your own comfort zone and first of all, reach the person. Secondly, if it's possible, and you're, someone in a place of authority, take this information to your management to be able to create some sort of platform for people to be able to get the help they need without discriminating. I think the major problem here is that fear of stigmatization.
Right.
And then also, if you're able to give the proper work-life balance for people to be able to engage in, with the COVID experience, people don't know how to stop work anymore, because now you're at home, you can wake up in the morning, mails are dropping till 2 a.m. And people just say, because I'm awake at 2 a.m. I can send the mail. Find a way to kind of like structure, allow people to work till what time and turn off, be offline from the normal hours to whenever you're supposed to end, so that there's a bit of a sanity.
Well, some companies do not respect these boundaries or have no boundaries in place. They put it under the excuse of, we have work to do. We have to satisfy these clients. We have to be on their job. So therefore, they overwork you over hours. They overwork you during the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and you feel the need to overly compensate because you do not want to be seen as being a non-team player. You want to give your all and not have your team looking bad or dropping the ball. So people keep working and working. And it's almost like the more employees, put in that work, the more the employers expect even more. They feel empowered knowing that, I've got a bunch of hardworking people under me. But in the real sense, they'd never really come to think of the fact that people actually do need rest to function properly.
Yes, I totally agree. And I think that's where the individual responsibility comes in. Because you have to call yourself to a meeting, like my mother would say.
Call yourself to a meeting?
Yes.
Do you speak to yourself?
You have to learn to speak to yourself. It's also mentally healthy to be able to say, look, you can't go beyond this because I'm struggling. And you know what happens on the airplanes? When you're getting onto the flight, they will tell you, in case there's any loss in cabin pressure, and there'll be a mask. First of all, put yours on
before you help
someone else.
Right.
That's what I mean by calling yourself to a meeting. I think one of the greatest disservice we do to ourselves is that we really don't call ourselves to that meeting. What can you handle? How much more can you take? What do you need to keep you happy? For some people, it's not really that much. Someone like me, I love sleep. I will tell you that no matter how hard I work, just give me some time to sleep. Vacation for me is 2 days of not doing anything but sleep. So I get to understand that this is what makes Uganze happy. So on my daily, routine, I must get my 8 hours. Some people say it's too much, but that's me. Because I found out that when I shortened it because of pressure, I started getting headaches. I started feeling drained. So I had to call myself to that meeting. So I have to learn to stop work at a particular time and sleep to a particular time, so that I would be mentally ready for the next day. But for some people, they take 5 hours. They say, it's fine, no problem.
Yeah.
But the important thing is, what do you need? Because without that, you can't function effectively for the next man.
Right.
And secondly, when you've done that, remember you came into a job that had defined work hours. Sometimes, yes, some of us forget that we actually said, okay, we'll sign up for this. And if you are signing up for that, those are your rights, in quote. So don't be ashamed to speak up and say, I'll give you my best. But remember, I'm also a mother. I have children.
You have a life beyond.
Yes, have that conversation with your bosses.
Yeah.
And that means that when you are there, you are there. Not to be, doing any hanky-panky between that time. So you learn to work hard, to work smart and not hard, like they say. So when you have those times you're supposed to be working, turn in your work.
All right. I'd like us to take some calls from our listeners who might have a question or two. We have a doctor in the house, and she's a pharmacist and the CEO of Chooselife Ltd. All right. The phone lines are 0809 191 3913, 0809 222 0913, or 0809 234 5913. You can also call the landline numbers on 01 515 0913, 01 515 1913. You're listening to The Office. This is Lagos Talks 91.3. Our guest in the house is Dr. Uganze Eke, and she is the CEO of Chooselife Ltd. Today we're discussing managing mental health and wellness at work and what most employers do to make sure the work environment encourages hygienic mental health. Let's go to the phone lines. Lagos Talks, good evening. Oh, so sorry about that. Keep the calls coming through. Remember, you can tweet at Lagos Talks 913. That is at Lagos Talks 913. And you can use the hashtag The Office 913 to join in the conversation. Now let's talk about medical practitioner. As a medical practitioner yourself, what are some personal life and work changes we should all embrace?
Oh, one is very clear to me. Set boundaries. Oh, yes. Because this was one area I realized a lot of people struggle with, particularly in these parts. You know, we are so well brought up in this, in
trying
Nigeria.
to please everybody.
You try, yeah, and that just means trying to please everybody. You can't say no. I think it's time we begin to actually teach ourselves and our children that one of the most beautiful boundary setting words is no. No, I can't do that.
And you don't need a comma after that.
You don't need to explain yourself. You know yourself enough to be able to say, no, I can't take on any more job work at this time. I'm already stretched. I'm not sleeping well. I'm not happy. You own your emotions. So setting boundaries, very, very important. That's one thing I've realized. Like I said, I'm not a medical health core specialist. There are people whose jobs are there to help you. There are the psychiatrists, there are the psychologists. You know, there's a lot of resources, even the counselors in your church or wherever you can find them. Get them. Go after people that can help you. Don't suffer in silence. A lot of us are so used to hiding our problems. I mean, you see people who, when they're sick, they'll rather tell you, I'm strong. I mean, you're obviously ill. Tell someone, I'm not well. It's not a sin to say that. So I would encourage people, set boundaries, get the help you need when you know you're struggling. And of course, speak up. Speak up. Speaking up is not a shame. Now, mental health is not a taboo that it used to be, even though people don't want to own it and say, I was ill. But this is the time to be able to know that if you do speak up, you not only will get the help you need, you'll also be empowering other people too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Welcome back from that quick commercial break. You're still listening to The Office on the Live Drive. It's Lagos Talks 91.3. The Office is specially and proudly brought to you by the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria and Lagos Talks 913. My name is Michelle Ago. I have a special guest in my studio, and she is the CEO of Chooselife Ltd, Dr. Uganze Eke. And today we're discussing about managing mental health and wellness at work. We've been talking through some of the changes that we've gone through during the pandemic, and I'd like her to do a recap on that again, because things went really digital, just like we were discussing off air. Things went really digital during the lockdown and the pandemic. You know, people working from home, not having enough sleep. Until now, some people are still caught up with that lifestyle. They aren't sleeping enough. I'm sure you've had many of these, people share their concerns with you, or you've seen them. What are the changes you've seen?
It's been huge, particularly the sleeplessness or insomnia pandemic, as I would call it. A lot of people didn't realize the impact the COVID work at home experience would have on them. So they just realized that they were glued to their desktops or their laptops or their smartphones, and so they hardly could really do much. And some would spend the day doing stuff and then stay up at night. So we had a lot of people not sleeping. And I've talked about the fact that there's a reason why our bodies are made for sleep. That's the only time the body rejuvenates and repairs and heals. So when you keep denying your body the sleep it should have, you create a ripple of effects, within your system that could end up creating mental health issues or even physical health problems. Yeah. But more importantly, there is a cycle to which the body expects to sleep. So everybody should pay attention to their body and wake up to this pandemic of sleeplessness, because it's time we took that seriously as well. there have been thoughts around why there's so much about hypertension, cancers, depression, and all sorts of illnesses, coming, out of this pandemic. And I believe, personally, this is my opinion, that the fact that we are not allowing for enough rest to heal and to be, to calm down and have things come back and reset.
How can we break this cycle of not sleeping or staying up at night to be on our smartphone for hours? How can we break the cycle?
Again,
some people are obsessed with it.
Yeah, like I said, you have to set those boundaries. And if you need help setting those boundaries, there's a lot of help out there. I'm sure if you even Google, you will see people who are teaching on these things and just apply, intelligence to your living.
Right.
We take so many things for granted. We think that because we are young, the body will always respond. But we are seeing horrible illnesses that have no business visiting young people coming now.
Yeah.
And that's because there's been a distinct change in the way you handle your physical, mental, spiritual, everything. Health and wellness is a holistic thing. It's not like you think you can deny one and the other part of you will be fine. Your body is a whole. So you must learn to treat everything as a whole. Just like you're exercising, eating well, also balance it with your mental health and also your spiritual health. Everything has to be together in a continuum and a balance. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, we go to the phone lines. You have been calling. It's time for us to speak now. 0809 234 5913. 0809 222 0913. You can also call 0809 234 5913. Get in touch on WhatsApp and on Twitter at Lagos Talks 913. That is at Lagos Talks 913. Call the landline numbers as well on 01 515 0913. 01 515 1913. Let's get talking. We have Dr. Uganze Eke in the studio. She's the CEO of Chooselife Ltd. Ways to make your life better, especially in the office. Putting your mental health first. Very important. Lagos Talks. Good evening.
Hello.
Good evening. Welcome.
Hi, good evening. My name is Toyosi.
All right, Toyosi, go ahead.
I'm just a quick one. It's just a contribution, and my message is for employers because Dr. Eke has said a lot of very nice things, but I think it's very important for employers to know that employees have to set boundaries, and while they're setting boundaries, they need to respect those boundaries and, try to create a culture in the organization that promotes, mental health. And I believe you'll get the best from employees. That's just my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good contribution.
Very, very good contribution. Respecting the boundaries. All right. Lagos Talks. Good evening. Hello.
Hello. Good evening, Lagos Talks.
It is Lagos Talks. This is who? What's your name?
My name is Ibrahim.
All right, Ibrahim.
I've been following the conversation. Everything is on point. Since the pandemic, truly, there has been a kind of change when it comes to sleep patterns, especially among the working population. And we also discovered that since the pandemic, there's been a lot of innovations. Everything have gone digital. A lot of apps are now out there. So it appears as though a lot of people, a lot of talent discovered themselves during that period.
Pandemic, yeah.
And then we are seeing new technologies rolling out since then. That said, I have my contribution, to this sleep issue is that I think generally we now see we now see day and night as being
the same.
How do I put it now? A lot of us disregard day and night because the technology makes it possible to work around the clock. You can actually work 24 hours. So that traditional old way of working during the day and sleeping at night is gradually fading off. It's more of like old school.
Right.
I see a lot of businesses were open 24 hours, and I think this is a new thing now. Everything now is running 24 hours because technology has made it possible. And then our body, I think, is not yet adapting to this new way of life. So in the health centers now, we are seeing young people coming down with chronic diseases. Diseases that are meant for people in their 70s, 80s back then, are now being diagnosed in young people as early as 27. So that's how bad it is.
Right.
My observation. Thank you.
Thank you. Great observation. Rightfully so. He talked about the fact that there are new applications, and one of those apps, TikTok. TikTok blew up during the pandemic. Everyone was on TikTok. I was on TikTok. I don't use the app anymore, but at that point, I was pressured to be on TikTok because everyone was doing stuff on TikTok. Didn't matter what you do, if you're social media savvy or not, everybody wanted to download TikTok. I don't know if that was, it was China's idea, but anyway. But yes, so it's very hard for us to break the cycle because we got used to it in the past 2 years. And like he said, the old way of going to work, coming back and sleeping, slowly phasing out because we spend more time on our smartphones, on our computers, working, watching YouTube, watching loads of skits, laughing. I mean, even if you feel pressured at work, you want to go home and then watch things to make you laugh. That's you spending more time on social media as well and depriving yourself of sleep, So
there was something he said, and you said it too, getting used to the old. It's not old, it's eternal.
It's eternal. That's how it should be.
The body is meant to sleep. So those are not old ways. Those are the ways of the body. Okay. If you bend the rules, you will suffer for it. And so saying that the new digital age is making us not sleep would never change the functionality of who you are created to be as a being. Now, wisdom is know the body, understand the body and respect it. Someone is talking about employers respecting the boundaries of the workplace. That's how you should respect the boundaries of you as a creation. Mm-hmm. And that means that there are just some things you can't change. That means you need to sleep to be able to heal. You need to sleep to be able to be restored and rejuvenated. Mm-hmm. There is no amount of whatever you're doing that can take away the fact that you need to rest. Respect.
Absolutely. You have to respect the body. We have to wrap it up here. Thank you so much. I really wish you could stay even longer. You have so much to share, and we appreciate you for coming into the studio.
Thank you for having me, Michelle.
Give us all of this knowledge. You've been listening to The Office on Lagos Talks 91.3. My guest today, Dr. Uganze Eke. Like I said, she is the CEO of Chooselife Ltd. There's more. She's an international certified clinical consultant pharmacist with over 25 years of work experience in both corporate and private businesses. She studied pharmacy at the University of Lagos, completed her doctorate of pharmacy degree at the University of Benin, Edo State. She's also a fellow of West African Postgraduate College of Pharmacists, a holder of an American Foreign Pharmacist equivalency degree, amongst other business certification. Now, her passion for preventive health has led to the birthing of her umbrella company, Fitness Fair, and subsequently Chooselife Ltd. One of her major strengths is connecting with individuals across corporate and individual strata, from executive to field staff, giving practical interventions and information needed to take action. And she just dropped loads of information for us to take action. One word: respect your body and set the boundaries that you need to make your life full of wellness and have a better mental health. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
All right.
We are Lagos Talks 91.3. Let's talk.